The recipe I'm going to teach you today makes an excellent main course for a holiday feast, whether that be Thanksgiving or any of the December holidays that you happen to celebrate. And in order to make an extra special presentation, we'll be using the acorn squash, cutting it in half and roasting it like that to use as the bowls in which to serve the main dish. This recipe is absolutely delicious. I think you're gonna love it, and it's one that you can be proud to share with anyone, even people who don't usually eat plant-based. It always gets rave reviews, and I think this is gonna make an excellent addition to your holiday feast. Our first step will be to roast the acorn squashes that we'll be using as bowls in this recipe. So I've preheated the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've lined a baking sheet with parchment paper. And now we'll slice these acorn squashes in half. One method I find helpful is to stab the pointy end of your knife into the squash, remove it, and then stab it again a little lower along the line that you'd like to slice. Once your seams meet in the middle, then you can pull it apart. Sometimes you can get your knife in there and then turn it to help you pry the squash open. Now we'll pull out the seeds with a spoon, and you can discard those or save them for roasting later. Once your acorn squashes are sliced in half and you've removed the seeds, you can just place them face down on your prepared baking sheet to roast in the oven for about 40 minutes to an hour. Another preliminary step for this recipe will be to cook the quinoa. I've got a cup of red quinoa in my bowl here. You can use any color quinoa. I just happen to like the festive look of red quinoa for the holidays. And to give the quinoa a little bit of extra flavor and sweetness, I am going to cook it in apple juice rather than water. If this doesn't sound delicious to you, you can just use regular water and cook the quinoa according to package instruction. We'll start with the butternut squash, and you can buy this already cubed if you'd like, but if you did buy a whole squash, let me show you now how I chop this. Slice off the bottom and the top of the squash, then run your knife all the way down the sides and work your way around. Do the top half first, and then finish with the bottom half after that. Once your butternut is peeled, then you slice it in half. And then you can use a soup spoon to remove the seeds. And once we've removed the seeds, then we'll just chop the butternut into bite-sized pieces. Once you've cubed the butternut squash, you can just put it in a bowl and set it aside. Did you know that Brussels sprouts grow on a stalk just like this? Whether you buy them like this or already separated from the stalk, I'm going to show you how I trim and prepare them for roasting. I'm using a smaller paring knife for this task just to keep it nimble, and I just run the blade along the bottom of each Brussels sprout to separate it from the stalk. As I've been working on the Brussels sprouts, the acorn squash has roasted to perfection, so I'm going to pull these out of the oven and set them aside. And now that I've removed all the Brussels sprouts from the stalk, I will trim and peel away any of the damaged leaves and have them for roasting. The first step will be to trim away the bottom layer of the core. You'll notice that the outer leaves become very easy to pull away at that point. And now that the Brussels sprouts are trimmed and cleaned, I'll give them a rinse. And the final step to prepare the Brussels sprouts will be to cut them each in halves or quarters. If they're larger, we'll cut them in quarters, and if they are smaller, we'll only cut them in half. That way they'll all be roughly the same size, and they'll roast more evenly that way. Next up to prepare are the beets. I've chosen golden beets, but red beets work just as well. And if you can buy them with the greens, I recommend it because you can use these in a salad. They're super delicious and really good for you. We won't need the greens for this recipe though, so I'm gonna trim them away, but I'm gonna leave about 4 to 5 inches of the stem on the beetroot because we're gonna use those stems for something handy. I'm gonna peel the beets with just a regular vegetable peeler, but since we've left so much of the stalk, it's gonna give me something to hold on to as I'm peeling. Once the beets are peeled, I'm going to give them a quick rinse under running water, and then I'll chop them into bite-sized pieces too. And now the beets are chopped, and all the veggies are ready to go into the oven for roasting. I left the oven on after I roasted the acorn squash because we're going to use it again, and I've covered an extra large baking pan in a layer of parchment paper. If you don't have a big pan like this, you can just use 2 regular-sized baking sheets instead. I'm going to spread the vegetables out on the baking sheet in a single layer. Whenever you're roasting several different kinds of veggies on the same baking sheet, it's always a good idea to keep them separated. That way, if you need to, you can very easily remove some of the veggies and return the baking sheet to the pan so that the rest of them can roast to perfection. Keeping them in a single layer as much as possible will help them to roast rather than to steam in the oven. This is particularly necessary since we're not using oil to roast. When the veggies are all out in a single layer, they're much more likely to brown and get to that beautiful caramelization that we all love. All the veggies are spread out in a beautiful rainbow array, and they're almost ready to go in the oven. I'm just going to sprinkle them lightly with salt and a dash of garlic powder first. I'm going to slide this pan into the oven at 425 Fahrenheit and roast them for about a half an hour at first. At that point, I may need to remove the Brussels sprouts because they're often more quick to roast, but the beets and butternut squash are a little denser and often take more time. While the veggies are roasting in the oven, I've washed a colander full of baby spinach, and I'm going to give this a rough chop and saute to go into the harvest bowls too. On the stove right now, I've got a saute pan over medium-high heat. I put just a little bit of vegetable broth in there, and I'm going to do a broth saute of our baby spinach. Stir the baby spinach in the vegetable broth until it's completely wilted, then add the quinoa and give that a stir again. Add your non-dairy pesto to the mixture and give it a good stir to incorporate it. Then cover the pan and set it aside. The veggies have been in the oven for a half an hour, and you can see that the Brussels sprouts are already starting to brown. I'm going to remove those from the pan right away, put them on a dish, and I'm going to put the butternut squash and beets back in the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes. I'm also going to flip the other veggies with the spatula and spread them out a bit on the pan so they can roast more evenly in the oven. And while the veggies are back in the oven for their final roast, I'm going to chop some pecans and some sweet and dried cranberries to go in the mixture too. Okay, the beets and butternut are nice and roasted to caramelized perfection, and we're ready to put the whole dish together. We'll need a big mixing bowl, and we'll grab our pesto spinach quinoa and transfer it to the bowl. And the roasted veggies will go in on top. I'll start with the Brussels sprouts, and then I'll spoon the roasted beets and squash in there too. Sometimes it's easier to just pick up the parchment and transfer them this way. I'm going to drizzle the mixture with some fig-sweetened balsamic vinegar. Just a light drizzle, we don't want to overpower the flavors too much. And then I'll add in the chopped pecans and cranberries. And we'll give this all a gentle stir. Gradually folding the pesto quinoa into the roasted veggies. Now, a mixture like this makes an amazing meal, but we're going to take it up to the next level by serving it in our roasted acorn squash halves. I've placed 2 of our roasted acorn squash bowls into a serving dish, and I'm going to gently spoon the mixture into the center. Isn't it beautiful? It's a dish you can be proud to lay down on your holiday table. To add a super yummy finishing touch, we'll do 1 more drizzle of fig balsamic vinegar and just a few more pecans and cranberries for garnish on top. It's amazing. So beautiful. It's just perfect for fall, and it features these amazing seasonal veggies. It's a really, really nice, presentable dish for your holiday feast. I hope you'll enjoy this as much as I have. This harvest bowl recipe is part 1 of a larger series of holiday recipes that I'm really excited to share with you. So if you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing so you can follow along for the rest. I'd love to connect with you here and continue to share my whole food plant-based recipes with you year-round. Again, I'm Stephanie Doherty of Green Sage, wishing you good health and delicious food. I'll see you next time.